What is going on, everyone, and welcome to my Stamina Templar update build 2.0, I guess. So a while ago I made a update video just pretty much going over everything, and throughout a few weeks I decided to tweak things around a little bit and just make some changes for the better. So whether you're a console player or a PC player, this should help you. And I know not everyone has add-ons or uses them, especially if you're a console player. So this one is slightly easier and does a little bit more damage. So if you want to watch the original, I'll leave a link in the description so you can check that out. Both of them are still good, but this one just has some tweaks in it. And before we start, I just want to say thank you guys so much for all the support on the videos lately. I really do appreciate it. You guys actually support it, so thank you guys so much. Anyway, let's get into it. So most of the armor is still the same. It's just now I have more champion points. I'll go over those in a little bit. So the 5-piece set is the Twice-Born Star. The reason why I use this is simply because the 5 set, you get to use 2 Mundus Stones. I'll get to that in a bit. And if you're doing more solo events, generally having the health and extra stamina is generally good. And the Magicka is just kind of there, but you get it anyway. So if you're looking for replacements for the Twice-Born Star, because this is a pretty difficult to craft one, because you need all 9 the research enchants or traits to actually craft it yourself. Otherwise you just buy it from like people. And yeah, so if you're doing group stuff like dungeons and endgame raid, you're going to want to use this one simply because you get extra resources and allows you to use the Mundus Stones. But if you're doing solo, Hunding's Rage works as well. It's pretty solid and it gives you more damage. And yeah. So the next thing I use is the Night Mother set, the 4-piece, 2 daggers, shoulders, and helmet. This also, I use it because it gives you weapon critical and weapon damage in general. So you want divines for pretty much everything, because 1, you get to use 2 Mundus Stones, so the percent bonus plus that is just doubled and good. So as you may imagine, this is stamina, so everything is stamina. There are some replacements you could use, though these are really craftable and they're pretty easy to craft. So one thing, if you want to boost up your damage a little bit more, this is the base. There are no pots on right now. So if you want to boost up your damage a little bit more and you are capable of doing some dungeons, generally you could use a Mola Kina Pauldron or helmet. You just replace 1 piece for either of them. It doesn't really matter which one it is, but it's easier to get a shoulder piece than a helmet, because to get this, the 2-piece set, you have to do better in White Gold Tower, and that one is not exactly the most fun or easy thing to do. And with the 1-piece, you get an additional 124 weapon damage, assuming you're getting it at champion point 160. The best stats you could possibly have is probably medium and divines, but generally you're just using it for the 1 set 124 extra damage. And the reason why I'm not using it right now is simply because I'm just trying to look for a divines one. But you get more damage, like about a 124 bonus, or 129 if it's legendary. However, your weapon critical goes down by like 5%, and I'm still kind of testing that to see how much of a difference it is. You get 120 something extra attack, minus 5% weapon critical, so I still think you do a bit more damage overall, but it really depends. So that is a replacement, though it's not exactly the easiest thing to get. You kind of got to get lucky or just run dungeons a lot. And as for the weapons, I use daggers. Obviously, you could use sharpened. That's one of the better ones, and then weapon damage. They do not stack the enchantments, so you can't just have weapon damage enchantments on both of them. So you have to actually have separate ones. And the reason why I use daggers is because under the dual wield, the passives, depending on what weapon you use, it gives like different stats. So I've noticed people use a lot of different ones, like swords, daggers, or axes. I've never seen anyone actually use a mace though, but that might be for PvP or something. I have no idea. I just use daggers for extra critical, so you want to boost that as high as possible, and that's pretty good. Alright, so that has pretty much been the set. I've been testing this out with axes and swords. It probably boosts your damage up slightly higher, or just your output damage, but I'm trying to keep my critical as high as possible. And then as for the jewelry pieces, this is the most expensive part, regardless of what character you're playing. Even if you aren't even playing like a Templar or something, jewelry is usually the most expensive thing you can get. I found this to work a little bit better for me because most of the time I don't run in full parties with people, so I just run with the randoms. You never know how good the tank or healer is going to be. So the necklace of agility isn't that expensive. It's like, I don't know what the cost on console is. Like, the market for every platform is obviously different, so we're just not going to go over prices, but I assume the Stamina Jewelry Agility Ring is the most expensive thing you can possibly get, regardless of platform. And then I chose one health ring just because it boosted up by another like 924, and it helps you survive a little bit. Notice how my health is slightly under 14,000 right now, and this is with the ring, and it goes pretty low. And I'll tell you what kind of pots I use later, but overall this is what I found the best. So you don't necessarily get one-shotted, but like if you don't have like the best situational awareness or something, or you're doing a dungeon with more than like enough fire, you have that extra second or so to move. So that's generally why I chose the extra bit. And as for the bow, I haven't upgraded it, but if I were to change it, I would put the Maelstrom or Dragonstar Arena bow. I think it's called the Master Bow or something. Though I do understand that not everyone has it, because the Veteran Maelstrom Arena is not exactly the easiest thing to do. And finding a Dragonstar party is not easy either. So if I were to switch this up, I would get the Night Mothers, just because when you switch bars, I would have 3 pieces, and that would increase my health by a lot, or not my health, the weapon damage. So when I do that, it goes down. Right now I'm on 2 pieces, but if I had the Night Mother's bow, it would be 3, so it just increases your damage. And if you don't have the trial ones, then go with the Night Mother ones as well. It's part of the set, so it works. So that's the jewelry and all the equipment. Some replacements for the 5-piece Twiceborn Star is the Hunding's Rage. I know there are some better ones to use. You could use like Alkosh, but I rarely ever see that. You get that from doing the Maw. I forgot what it's called, Maw of Larkage or something. And that's the trial for the Thieves Guild. And people don't really run it unless you're in like an active guild with like 12 people. And it's not exactly the easiest thing to do. So if you ever see it on the guild vendors for like less than 200,000, I'd probably buy it. So that's what it is. But if you're just like looking for something with more damage, Hunting's Rage works fine, easy to craft. And then Twiceborn is if you want more resources. So let's see what's next. We'll go over the champion points last. What did I change? So this is our main bar. I'm using Biting Jabs. This is your primary attack, and as a Templar. And then Steel Tornado has a dual wield because it's your AoE clear. It does a lot of damage. Rearming Traps is under the Fighters Guild, and that one just does like traps them, does a lot more damage and generally more dots. And then these two, Evil Hunter and Silver Shards, I don't really use it, but the reason why you want to stack Fighters Guild abilities, including the Flawless Dawnbreaker, is because you get weapon damage. And with this new passive, well, it's not new, but it's kind of just here, increases your weapon damage by 3% for each Fighters Guild ability slotted. So that's 5% plus 3%, that's like 8%. And then another 3, 11, 14, 17%. 17% is a lot. And then that goes onto your main bar, and that's where all the damage comes from. So next, on our secondary bar, there are a few things you could switch up. Now, I understand not everyone is PvPing, so these two, Razor Caltrops or just Caltrops and Vigor, might not be available for everyone. So I'll do some replacements in a bit. Poison injection for our bow is up here. It's just like extra damage and poisons them, so you could cast like 3 things at once. And then depending on how you do, you just want to Endless Hail. It's your AoE raining, like you do that, or then you do that, and you just toss down. That's dot damage, and then you switch bars and then just burn it. So with that said, you want that. And then Repentance. Repentance is your heal. It has no cost to heal, and it's like with the dead corpses on the ground, you essentially get more resources, and it's essentially a free cost skill. So usually every Templar runs it. It doesn't matter what kind of Templar you are, you have it on. Repentance, whatever you do, don't choose the other one. I don't even know what it's called. Just don't get that one. Now, Vigor and Caltrops. This is tricky because this is for PvP, and honestly, they made it a little bit easier. If you spent like a couple days grinding, you could probably get to 6 in no time, even if you've never PvP'd before. Just like look for a group, just go follow everyone else, kill stuff, and you'll get to 6 in no time. So Caltrops is your huge ball of dot damage, or just dot, and then Vigor is another healing. So if you don't trust your healer, you have this on for yourself. And if you're playing with randoms, usually most healers are terrible. So you kind of want to have 2 heals on your back bar for yourself. So now I assume, let's say you don't have either of these. What do you do? Well, you could switch up one of these bars or 2 of these bars for one. You switch it for the Blazing Spear, and what that does is you could toss down resources for your team, and then toss that down, hail. So there's essentially 3 damage over time things just firing off at once. Now, you don't really use it too often. Plus, if you're doing dungeons, you get more, like, your allies can pick up shards and get more stamina, 25%. So that's always good, especially if you have a tank. It helps them not die, so that's generally a good thing, yeah. And then, if you don't have Caltrops, another thing I would use is the charging maneuver thing. Now, everyone gets this. If you just go into Cyrodiil and like talk to a few people, you get to level 2, and you don't even have to do anything. You just kind of get it. So, this one just lets you move faster, and it helps your team move faster as well. So, that one, I would use that if you don't have level 6 to have those 2. But if you don't want to do that, there are quite a few other things you can choose in place. Like Ring of Preservation is okay. You can also use Shadow Silk. It's like, it snares the enemies down in a small area. It's not necessarily the best thing, but this also works. And yeah, level 9 Undaunted is the max. You want to have these as well, just for the max bonuses. But Shadow Silk works if you really don't have the other abilities. Otherwise, a lot of other things work as well. You could honestly just put anything and you'll be fine. You could even put another heal, Breath of Life. Now, granted, you won't be able to cast this as many times because this costs magic and your stamina. But if you just want another healing, then Breath of Life works as well. So there are other replacements, but Vigor, just because it costs, or it uses stamina instead of magic to heal, that's why people use it, and it's good. So those are my skills. And then Meteor is on this bar. It does more damage than the Dawnbreaker. Wait, where is it? But your weapon damage is increased by 5% when using that. But even with that 5%, Meteor still does a bit more damage. So that one's under the Mage's Guild. You have to get it to level 10, which takes a while. And if you don't have add-ons or anything, it might be a little bit tricky. I do have some videos of just showing you where all the sky shards are if you are a console player and something, or you just don't want to use add-ons for some reason. You could go check that out, or just Google it in general, just locations, and then there should be pictures everywhere. So Shooting Star, the only time you use it is at the beginning of a boss battle. You cast that down and then drop all your dot damage. So like you'd hit R and then 5, assuming you have it, 5, 2, or 5, 1, 2, and then switch bars. Drop your rearming traps and then jabs the enemy. And then, assuming the fight goes on for more than 30 seconds, the rest of the ultimate will be used on your Dawnbreaker. You never really want to go back to Shooting Stars again until the next boss. And then once you get to the next boss, you drop your Meteor down again and then continue on with the boss. That's the rotation. And if you watch my dungeon videos, you would know that you could actually watch some live gameplay in action of this exact build. So attack potion, or the potion you really want to be using. So I guess I'll just go over this real quick. Attack potion at 150. This is the highest one. You want increased weapon damage, increased weapon critical, and of course increased stamina, because stamina, right? So I'll just use one real quick, and let's see. Let's drop a food. We'll just use this one. My health went up to 20k. Generally, you want to stay above 18,000, but if you have a good healer, you should be fine. But if you just play with the randoms a lot, you kind of want to give yourself a little bit of extra buffer room so you don't actually die in one shot. I've seen people do easy dungeons, and they're all stacked out on damage, and which is good, but our healer isn't, so they get like one-shotted really quickly. So just having that little buffer room is always good. And then your stamina. If you were to choose another stamina ring instead of health right here, it would go up to about like 36,000 or 35,000 something. And then if all your stuff were 160 right here, then you would be capped at 36,000. So that's always good. And then that's what we want to use. And with the attack pot, your damage shoots up at plus 500 and goes from 3,400 to 3,900. Now, let's say I wanted to boost my damage up even more. You would equip the thing, it would go up to 40, 96, and let's say, for some reason, I usually wouldn't recommend it, but I've seen people do it. They take off Steel Tornado, and you just put like another Fighter's Guild because you get the extra 3%. So let's say you take this off. Your damage would be at 4175, which is not bad, but once again, your weapon critical is a bit lower, and your damage just shoots up to a little bit over 4,000. So, depending on how you want to do it, I still do have to do some testing to see how much to, like, I know it's still a chance, but I'd rather have a higher chance to do more damage because criticals are generally good. So if I want to boost mine above 75 with a slightly lower damage, and that's what you could do. To be honest, I wouldn't really recommend taking off Steel Tornadoes just because it's your AoE clear and it does a lot of damage. So overall, I think you would do more than just using jabs. And someone told me that jabs counted as a dot, and that makes no sense to me because it doesn't even say anything about damage over time. But apparently ZeniMax considers it a dot. So with that said, let's go to our champion points now. This is what you want to put in for your blue thing first. Increase your physical damage, poison, disease damage by 25%. Physical damage is very important. Next, you want to either max out Precise Strikes or Thaumaturge. I don't even know if I pronounced that right. And this one increases your dot damage, or just dot. And apparently biting jabs is considered dot for some reason. It makes no sense to me, but it is apparently. And then this one is increases damage and healing dealt by weapon criticals. So generally you want to have like more into this one, but I just started putting them into there because I just found out jabs was considered dot. and then this one is just criticals. So boost criticals is good. And then piercing, you could put some in, but generally it's not really that important. Next, you want to put some into stamina recovery and reduces the cost of that. So I'm slightly focused on putting this up to 100, and then the Moon Calf one is increases your stamina recovery because all your skills are stamina. Generally, recovery and reduced cost is good. So having the extra like 15% and 10% of that helps a bit. So next is what most people use. It doesn't even matter if you like ask other people. You want your resistances. Now, if you have a lot of extra disposable gold in this game, you could like switch it up quite often, depending on like what you're doing. So like poison, disease, and physical damage, you could just even it out to get to 120 at 60-60. It's fine, but like let's say you're doing a harder dungeon with something with more fire, you could put like 100 and then 20 or something. But that's only if you have a lot of gold to spend and you just want to like switch it up a lot depending on what you're doing. But if you don't, 60-60, even it out is fine. And after that, you would put some into like other stuff, like healing received. The quick recovery, after I get to 120 for that, I would be putting some into quick recovery. Let's say you're doing a dungeon and your healer is healing. It helps quite a bit. So that's the champion points. Ultimately, you do whatever you want. If you find something more effective, that's fine. Do what works for you. And play it your style. Don't assume that one build you see online is always the best, because there are always better ones. But this is what I found to work for me. And yeah, so if you have any questions or anything, feel free to let me know. Mostly you just put the changes where put these on here for the extra 3% and all that stuff. So extra major savagery. I don't know if they stack, to be completely honest, but it just gives you one slotted. So with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I don't think I missed anything. Overall, use a Night Mother's bow instead of Sithis, and optional things are the Molokana helmet or shoulders if you want the extra damage but lower weapon critical. Hunting's Rage also works for this. Alkosh for your jewelry if you want to like min-max. It does slightly more than agility, but agility is technically easier to find, but still kind of expensive. And yeah, you could test whatever kind of weapons you want. Dual wield simply because this passive, it gives you bonuses depending on what you want. 1 axe, 1 dagger works. 2 daggers works. 2 swords work. Just don't use maces. That one's just kind of weird. But anything, whatever you want, it works. Those are my replacements. Also, the helmet from the fungal plus an axe is also good. And like 2-piece, if you don't want to use that, it just gives you more poison. So there are a lot of options, but this is what I found to work for me. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, leave it in the comments. I do read them all. Thanks so much for watching, and see you guys next time.